Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this from the desk of Salita Promotions. Big news in the boxing world. Salita Promotions and Win Records are joining forces for an exciting long-term partnership. Together, they are dedicated to keeping the next generation of boxing stars active and rising to the top. These cards will complement events on DAZN. I don't really see what the advantage here is because unless I'm mistaken, Salita Promotions already had a broadcast deal with DAZN, having absolutely nothing to do with Win Records. So if anybody benefits from this partnership, it seems like it's Win more than Salita. And when you think about Win Records, a company that's barely a year old, with just a handful of very obscure and unknown recording artists, their biggest acquisition is Claressa Shields, who's already been with Salita Promotions from the start of her boxing career. Her newfound celebrity. Now, you might find that Claressa Shields is a little bit more talked about in recent months and recent years than she has been in previous ones, but that's not as a result of anything Win Records did. That's as a result of her relationship with Papoose.
It always has been.
Coincidentally, Papoose is said to be the creative director over there at Win Records. The Y is a record company for recording artists so focused on carving out a lane for themselves in the world of boxing. What's the relationship, aside from the one that Claressa has with Papoose?
They seem like a startup.
A new kid on the block, and I would say that Win Records as a company benefits more from its relationship with Claressa than the other way around, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be to where you put money muscle behind the fighter
In order to increase the profile of the fighter. Near as I can tell, it's Claressa increasing the profile of Win Records. It's sort of backwards.
How does Salita Promotions benefit from a partnership with Win Records? How does Claressa? Everything happening in her boxing career right now could have happened without anything from Win Records.
What, if any, services are they providing?
When it comes to managerial services, her manager for the longest time has been Mark Taffet.
I wonder, with the emergence of this Win Records in Claressa's corner, have they eliminated Mark Taffet from the picture? And if they have, what is Win Records now doing for Claressa that Mark Taffet couldn't do with the existing arrangement? Because it seems to me like it's just another hand in the cookie jar, though I'm not sure why it's there. Even from a recording artist's perspective, Claressa could have took her own money, built herself up a little studio in her apartment or her condo or wherever she lives.
Studio equipment doesn't actually cost that much. A decent microphone, soundproofing, a MIDI pad,
It's relatively inexpensive.
engineering equipment, and if Claressa Shields doesn't have the time to do all of that herself, she could have just bought studio time in a studio downtown somewhere.
Distribution.
If we start talking about distribution and who's supposed to be distributing her tracks, whatever it is she wants to record, well, Papoose is there. Have him do it.
I just don't see what role exactly Win Records is fulfilling in the corner of Claressa Shields, and it seems like they benefit more from this partnership than she does.
They're the ones who are said to have put up the $15 million for Layla Ali to come out of retirement and box Claressa Shields, when I don't think this company, that's
A year?
little more than a year old, is worth $15 million. So how could they get that kind of money for Layla?
They couldn't. It was a sophisticated bluff.
Simultaneously, they're also the ones who are said to be kicking out the $2 million for Claressa Shields per fight as a result of her $8 million deal.
What's supposed to be a $2 million deal for 4 fights across a 2-year span, and that money is supposed to be coming from Win. But if it is, then what's Salita doing?
And what money is coming from Salita? Because it's Salita Promotions that has the DAZN deal.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
You could almost forgive Claressa Shields for not knowing the ball from the bounce because she's a fighter, not an attorney, not a lawyer, and she's barely a recording artist, so a lot of the peculiarities with all of this are going to go right over her head.
I don't know that you could call this a good thing, that Win Records are more and more involved in her career in what is this symbiotic relationship where they seem to benefit more from it than she does.
But that's the story. Salita Promotions and Win Records are going to do a lot more business with each other moving forward, but I don't really know what that business is.
Then super featherweight news. WBC super featherweight champion O'Shaquie Foster is willing to give Vasyl Lomachenko an immediate title shot. So after beating Raymond Ford in his last ring appearance, the WBC 130-pound champion called out, Ring Magazine and WBO 140-pound champion Shakur Stevenson.
I'm not really interested in that fight. I'm not interested in seeing another guy jump up 2 weight classes for a fight he's likely gonna lose.
He has also targeted a unification bout against unified IBF and WBO champion Emmanuel Navarrete, though neither of those matchups appear likely in the immediate future. That doesn't mean he's out of options, as another possibility he is intrigued to pursue relates to a surprise name: Vasyl Lomachenko. The Ring recently reported that Lomachenko was ending his retirement.
The Ukrainian star is also said to be targeting big fights at 130 pounds. If the former 3-weight world champion and 2-time Olympic gold medalist is serious, Foster wants him to know that he's ready for the challenge. I would give him the opportunity, Foster told The Ring. I can be the first one he comes to see. I'll send him back to where he needs to be. If you're coming back, let's get it done. I've got the title and I'll put it up. We can make it happen. Lomachenko, 38, hasn't been seen since scoring an 11th round stoppage win over George Kambosos 2 years ago in 2024 to win the IBF lightweight title. Although plenty of fighters wanted to take him on, Lomachenko retired, saying that he no longer had the motivation to fight.
So then what's motivating him now?
Big fat fucking check from Zuffa Boxing, I'd wager, because I don't think he's coming back with Top Rank or Matchroom or Golden Boy or the PBC for that matter. If anybody's got the capital to bring Vasyl Lomachenko out of retirement, it would be them.
Around the time of his retirement, O'Shaquie Foster was disappointed because he wanted to share the ring with Loma out of respect and the challenge it would present. Now, it could happen. I used to say that was my dream fight, Foster said, just because of the skills, angles, and all of the movements he made in the ring, but once he retired, I got away from thinking about it. I think that's the fight to make, skill for skill. It would make for an amazing fight.
Now, these quotes come as Boxing Scene reported Foster warned newly minted interim champion Ryan Garner, 20-0 with 10 KOs, against getting his hopes up for a title shot. The Ring's number 7 junior lightweight scored a career-best decision win over Michael Magnesi this past June, and is the 32-year-old's mandatory challenger.
O'Shaquie basically told him to buzz off, but it's not really up to O'Shaquie whether or not Ryan gets that shot. It's up to the WBC.
Now, if Vasyl Lomachenko were actually interested in boxing O'Shaquie for his WBC title, I don't think the WBC would get in the way, but they would have to start working on that fight now.
Ryan Magnesium is a potential stumbling block for that fight. And what else?
The promoter. I mean, to my knowledge, O'Shaquie Foster is still with Top Rank, whereas Loma, he's not. I think he's coming back with Zuffa, and if my suspicions prove accurate, is Top Rank gonna want to make a fight between one of their guys and a Zuffa fighter?
Dana White is a cancer for boxing.
It was just the other day Bob Arum was taking his latest set of shots at his old buddy Dana White, who he's never had a high opinion of or a good relationship with.
I don't think that's all of a sudden gonna change now for an O'Shaquie Foster versus Loma fight.
O'Shaquie Foster's a great fighter, don't get me wrong, but he's not even the champion that Vasyl Lomachenko is rumored to be looking at. Rumor has it that Loma wants a fight with unified champion Emmanuel Navarrete. So unfortunately for O'Shaquie, he may be barking up the wrong tree. The hope for him has got to be that Top Rank becomes interested in making a unification match between him and Emmanuel, because the both of them are their fighters.
If you don't want them getting distracted and floating away to some other side of the street to box Vasyl Lomachenko, you better make a fight between them then.
It's easily the best fight the super featherweight division will have seen in years. A fight between O'Shaquie Foster and Emmanuel Navarrete for 3 of the 4 major titles at this weight. Top Rank is often blown hot and cold when it comes to unification matches. They don't have the affinity for them that Matchroom has.
With Matchroom, it's usually a clear destination, a clear path for their fighters, whereas with Top Rank, sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. It's a case-by-case basis.
We know that DAZN is actively pursuing box office fights to spruce up their ultimate tier.
To the point they even picked up the Spence vs. Zoo pay-per-view that doesn't involve any DAZN fighters.
So they really are trying to sell people on that ultimate tier. On that predication, Maybe Top Rank can put together Navarrete versus Foster as a pay-per-view.
Think they could do that?
I've seen worse fights end up behind a paywall than that one. I've seen worse pay-per-views. Remember Ruiz versus Areola on Fox? So if they want to discourage two of their super featherweight champions from floating to some other side of the street for a Loma fight, they better make them fight each other.
Does Lomachenko have anything left?
If he did get the Oshaki-Foster fight, or the Emmanuel Navarrete fight, what are his chances 2 years out from his last fight and making super featherweight that he hasn't made in years?
If you've been with this channel long enough, you will have heard me say that enjoy Vasyl Lomachenko while he lasts, because he's not going to last very long. He's got a young man's style. All that moving and pivoting and that activity in the pocket, that work rate.
What's the guy, 38 or 39 years old now? It can't be getting any easier to keep up that base style. It's very nuanced and very effective, but it is a young man's style, and he's not a young guy, so what he's got left?
I couldn't tell you. We're gonna have to wait and see. I suppose that he could beat a certain caliber of fighter, a certain ilk, gatekeepers and journeymen, those kinds of people, but anybody who's young and on the up and up.
Since the announcement of Vasyl Lomachenko's unretirement, very little new information has come out. We don't have an exact date or a location.
Just what we heard the first time out, that he's supposed to be returning sometime in the fall. Under what promotional banner, they never said. I'm only assuming that it's going to be Zuffa.
Because who else could offer up the kind of money that would have brought him out of retirement? The tragedy of Vasyl Lomachenko's career is, for all of the buzz and hype around him, he never really got to score that big payday, that big purse. He made respectable money.
Good money, but not great money. Not like what Usyk has been getting.
Or Inoue. So I think the main focus of Vasyl Lomachenko's return is the money that he stands to make. That's what brought him out of retirement, more than passion for the sport, the chance to make the kind of money that he wasn't making before.
And Zuffa?
For them, it's a chance to use a familiar face in the sport, bring them to their platform to strengthen their brand power, because they're still in the beginning stages of their foray in the world of boxing.
It's only been a few months.
They're rumored to be doing the Usyk versus Wilder fight. I think they're going to be doing Vasyl Lomachenko's ring return. It's in keeping with the pattern.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, an update to a story talked about in a previous video, David Benavidez's situation with his fiancée, who took to her social media to address rumors about their potential breakup, saying, "What prenup? People keep asking about a prenup, but there wasn't even going to be a civil marriage. We were only planning to be married in a Catholic church in Mexico because that's what I wanted. If getting married legally had been my priority, we could have done that years ago. This was never about money. If it had been, I wouldn't have called off the wedding. I would have gone through with it despite everything." Why does everything have to revolve around money and fame? You die with nothing.
David Benavidez himself took to his own Instagram story saying, "My wife and I are working our problems out. I never presented her with a prenup. Stop the lies. I'm man enough to admit my faults and I failed. Karina has always been by my side and loved me through everything. She helped me more than anyone. She's been there for me through everything and always loved me. It's my fault and no one else's." But in what way is David at fault? What could have been bad enough that caused Karina to call their wedding off?
Well, if it's not money, like Karina says, what else could it have been?
It wasn't infidelity. Not according to Karina. She said there was no cheating involved. There are bigger problems than cheating.
Substance abuse, perhaps? We know that David Benavidez has wrestled with substance abuse in previous years. It's what costed him his WBC title the first time that he lost it. He was treating his nose to that booger sugar. If it's not about money and it's not about infidelity, could it be about substance abuse?
It might be. David Benavidez is once again admitting fault, admitting that he's the one that's wrong here.
And you know what else he's admitting?
That his next fight is a layup. He was quoted as saying on Noel's obligation, "Right now, I have to be very smart with my fights because this is the last fight on my contract with the PBC. I'm negotiating a new contract. I don't want to take the hardest fight in the last fight of my deal. What I am going to do is fight another champion at cruiser, and after I win that fight, I'll have 1 world title at light heavyweight and 3 titles at cruiser. That gives me more leverage to negotiate a bigger contract."
But a bigger contract with who? The PBC? If he stays over there, he's a fucking moron.
Look, congratulations to the PBC for getting him to this point where he's a 3-division, current reigning, unified cruiserweight champion. They've done well enough for him, but moving forward, I don't see what else they can do, aside from continue to put his fights behind a paywall.
Most people ain't gonna pay to climb over.
In the spirit of objectivity, and not just mulling over the same material, never mind the stuff with Canelo, and never even mind the stuff with Jai Opataya. If we're gonna talk about what's the best move for David moving forward, I think it's changing his decorum.
Why?
The PBC have already put his fights on pay-per-view 4 or 5 times by my count, and those pay-per-views, they're just not selling. If that's all they can do for David, then they can't do much. Whereas if he migrates to a different promoter, say a Matchroom.
You think he should go to Matchroom?
Jaron Ennis did, and look at how well he's doing. David Benavidez is limiting himself to the dwindling US market that isn't into boxing as much as they used to be. To make real money, he needs to hit an international stage. I would go as far as saying he should maybe go to the UK, box a couple of cruiserweights over there.
And who better to promote him in that endeavor than Matchroom?
Now, obviously, this kind of a move would leave the PBC up the creek without a paddle, but what else could they possibly have to offer David Benavidez now that he's entering free agency?
What's new over there? They don't have any bodies for him to fight at either light heavyweight or cruiser. They don't have anything new for him to do. The Noel Mikhailian fight, that thing ain't gonna sell.
It's been weeks, feels like months, since the Zerto Ramirez fight, and we haven't even got a ballpark figure for that fight, to where if they had something to brag about, they would have bragged about it by now. In all likelihood, that fight didn't sell nothing, and this one is gonna sell even less than that.
You've got to be realistic. The PBC may have outlived their usefulness for David Benavidez.
So if we're gonna be objective, and the conversation centers around improving his circumstances, his profile, and what he makes per fight, I think Matchroom would pay handsomely to promote this fighter, and I think he should look to go over there.
He would still be in proximity of Turkey LL Sheik and his Ring Magazine, Riyadh Season fights if he's interested in fighting on those.
And if he's not and he just wants to enhance his international profile, who better to help him do it than Eddie Hearn? He'd still be able to fight in America, but he would also be able to fight in other markets.
What about all the stuff with Karina?
He probably said Canelo Alvarez's name during sex.
Yeah.
Says that guy's name enough on every podcast that he appears on, says his name in practically every interview that he does. Maybe that's what caused the rift.
He says they're working things out.
They may yet be able to, though as far as David Benavidez's next career move, and what I think would be objectively better for him, I think he should change his decorum. It's not going to make any waves staying at the PBC.
It'll just be more of the same.
I think it would be a very, very big story that David Benavidez has decided to finally leave the PBC to go with a Matchroom. Look at what it did for Boots. It could do that for David.